Well, good evening, all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your SPDR ETF stock market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for a day that's got a lot of red behind me. So we're starting to see a rollover in the markets. And today, by the way, is the 14th of November, Thursday, 2024. And what's going on is I think we've run the course of the Trump spurt on his win. Remember, it was 8 days ago, last Wednesday, early morning, when President-elect was announced, about 1:30 to 3:30 in the morning, depending which network you were watching. And the market has been on a tear ever since then. Now, we've had this week PPI, CPI reports that show one thing: stubborn inflation. It's not willing to drop much more. Prices actually bumped a little bit in the core PPI today, so that was interesting to see. The Fed chair spoke today in Dallas, and he was talking about all this. And as soon as he said, you know, the Fed's not on a race, we don't have to be cutting rates really quickly, the game changed instantly. You saw the stock indices drop away, you saw interest rates climb on that statement, and that's because you're now getting to the point where I think that push up on that particular leg is ended. Past tense, I think it's over that leg. And now the market's starting to pay attention more to the Fed, and we're seeing some stubborn markets. We get a lot of data tomorrow. You're going to get advanced retail sales for October, 7:30. 7:30, New York State Empire manufacturing number. Import-export data, that's going to come out at 7:30. Retail sales, an index number, coming out at 7:30. The Federal Reserve is going to release their monthly industrial production and capacity utilization, and that's at 8:15, and then at 9, business inventories. Now, there's more data that was coming out. It certainly looks like the Trump administration is running full steam at getting rid of that $7,500 tax credit on cars. They're of the belief that why is the average taxpayer supporting people to do that? Very different than the Biden administration. The car company should make the cars cheap enough to attract the people, is the concept. We saw Robert Kennedy today Robert F. Kennedy was announced to take the helm of health. So I think you have two people that probably won't pass muster in the Senate. I'm giving you my guess. Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Gates for the Attorney General. I've got questions, but the president has done what he promised. He nominated them for these cabinet offices. Now, if the Senate doesn't approve it, that's something different. We will see. I think that there's joint parties that might be against these two gentlemen for the positions that they were nominated for. It has nothing to do with what I think. So don't write me, oh, you're saying that. No. I write about it all tonight in my newsletter. So if you get my full newsletter, it's all there as to why, and I go through it, and that's where my opinion is on that, as to what's going on. But stock indices down, and tonight in the futures are down early in the evening. Amazon finally pulling back a little bit. That I want to see that happen. Uranium just sort of sitting. Now, you were down in Rivian today, and you're back down to the numbers before. My grammar's wrong. Right when Volkswagen surprised the market and said they're going to invest another $800 million on top of the $5 billion. So you popped up, got up, to 13 or so, and you're pulling back. And the negative, of course, for this and the negative for Tesla is going to be you pull that $7,500. How many people will not want to buy the car if they don't get that edge in the car? It's that way. Are these cars really affected that way via their price point? That's another thing you got to look at. It certainly will affect GM. It'll affect Ford. It'll affect everybody in America that wants to make these cars that were qualifying for that. That's going to go bye-bye from the looks of it. When we look at Tesla, I've made some statements to you. You have gaps that like to get filled. I don't know that you'll fill this one. I can understand this one holding up, but I do think the market's going to try as best as it can to fill this particular gap in the market. When I look at what the market's done on the swing line, you still have a pattern here that is bullish. Higher lows, higher high. So it's a correction in a market that's bullish. The main support comes in now at 275.59. Number will jump in the morning most likely. You've got a market that's petered out against the upper Bollinger Band, didn't turn bearish, just couldn't carry the day any further against that number, and momentum is turned down. Momentum turning down, coming off the Bollinger Band, as I told you, I thought the pros were coming out of that market. I think they did it starting right here, all the way up there, and you'll say that's a pretty big spread. You're right. It's a real big spread, and that's because of what? What happened at that time? The election. So the market skyrocketed because the new buddy of President Trump is in his ear is Elon. All right. When we look at Live Nation, back and forth here, still looking pretty good. Are they going to embed down the road next week? I'm going to wait to see that. I love their business model. I mean, I'm a fan of this company. Crowd. Okay, so we come into CrowdStrike, and you can see how you're backing off finally from running the Bollinger Band. One day doesn't prove anything. You never did embed. And then now if the market drops tomorrow early on, you're still opening up the door to come back all the way to there. When we look at the uranium, it keeps fighting the battle where I've told you. You get a close now over 31.30, and I think you have to join into the bull camp. You don't do that, you still got this market can come back and challenge right here. In K-Web, you know how bearish I am on everything China. They need to do something. December's coming around the corner. That's when they might do it at their next set of meetings that are scheduled for then. But as they look at these markets, how happy can they be with this? I understand President Xi was in, I think it's Peru. Costco invested billions in a port there for shipping of goods out that isn't really helping the local people. This is what I'm hearing on the news, and that isn't very good. So you invest all that money for yourself? Okay. Toll Brothers, be careful. You get now back under 151.14, it's problematic. What is the trend right now? Up. You have higher lows, higher highs, but again, you went to that Bollinger Band, and you know what I teach you. When you're not embedded, if the trend is moving or not, if you hit a Bollinger Band up or down, pros like to use that number to come out against. When you look at the home builders, you've got a market that is stuck and riding the lower Bollinger Band, but there's a whole story going on here. Look at how the bands are narrowing in. See the top and bottom band, how wide out they were? They're coming in. This market might be ready to fight a battle between right here and the 114.85 level, the 100-day average. I'm still not in the bull camp on that. And hearing the Fed say that they might say stickier for longer on this interest rate, do you think that's bullish the housing market? I don't think so. Did you look at what the mortgages did today? They went up another 1/10, but that's a 1/10 over last week, and all they've been doing is climbing. So you're about 6.75% right in that range. In the financial service, be careful here. On the daily chart, you could break down a bit now. The weekly is still very bullish. This was the markets that I've been telling my subscribers, cut your positions down, because that's one of them they've been in. They did catch this move, and away you go. In XLI, certainly looks to me like you're ready for a correction in the industrial sector. A possible target is to fill this gap between there and there again, the Trump election, and see if the market wants to fill any of that. I'm not saying it has to happen. I'm giving you as a chartist the logical idea. On the energy sector, I don't see interest rates hurting energy in any manner. I can understand it doing industry and so on. So this market to me still looks on the bull camp. It might look all around and say everything's breaking, why am I staying up? But if embeds, I think that's your opportunity to use breaks to come in. I was very wrong on gold. But I think that if you hold the gold, I think it's going to start making its bottom right in here from 234.75 to the Bollinger Band. Think of what the Fed chair said. Inflation is sticky. They may not be able to cut rates as much. Gold thrived in that going into the election. It saw the dollar going higher, interest rates going higher, but it was the inflation story because it also realizes nobody is talking except Elon Musk and Ramaswamy that they're going to be able to cut somewhere in the government. Everybody else coming in, we'll see. Kennedy wants to fire thousands of people in the health departments. I think that's going to keep him out of them. In addition, he has some fairly non-traditional ideas. That's the term I'm going to use. I write about it in my newsletter. Again, I think he was chosen. He was owed the nomination. He was owed it, by the way. It got extra votes for Trump. We all thought the race was super close. We didn't know it was as wide as it was. And by the way, the betting websites, guess who the government's going after right now? Those websites. All right, so watch out on that. SLV coming down, but I think right here, I'm not a bottom picker. I'm a picker that if you were short, I'd be telling you to cover shorts. If you were in gold short, I'd be telling you to cover the gold short. There's nothing bullish here for me to hang my hat on. I was wrong in the gold, all right. I can't be right all the time. I'm not even close to right all the time. Lower highs, lower lows, down into this, getting itself, maybe it embeds, could get a bounce, could still be a short sale. But it is an area that I'd be teaching people cover shorts. I thought copper could go down, and I made a mention of it in these videos yesterday for you. I thought it could challenge the $4 a pound area. It went today down dramatically to $4.15. And then it rallied back to 408, all in one time. Wow. And it's trying to get back into the Bollinger Bands there. BND, lower highs, lower lows. Now, I think you're energizing the bears in this market. It'll just be a question as to what is high enough on yields that anything that you're doing gets a little too carried away. But nothing the Fed said today tames this market. Nothing. It's just going to be that the market gets ahead of itself. It keeps the dollar bid. Yes, I realize you can get corrections, and you should, because you're now 5 days in a row over the upper Bollinger Band. As I said, ETFs can go 7. It's not the same rule as futures. They're a little bit longer in the tooth. And FXE doing the same. But it's a weekend. You might get some profit taking set in, so I'd be on the lookout for it. I keep talking about what I write and the different things I do. You do realize you can get a free offer and try all this just by going to IraEpstein.com, free offers, and we give you everything that's here. We have a page that looks like this. You'll end up at the bottom of it putting in your name, your email address. If you have a message for us, put it in there. And on the page, you're able to go in and you're going to see, select this free offer. Pages will look like that. It goes into a cart. And then you hit send, and away it goes to us. I hope you take advantage of it. I'm Ira. I'll catch up with you in the morning.